everyone. So we will get started on the presentation skills and preparation for the competition webinar. So I'm just going to present myself very quickly. My name is Natasha. I'm one of the coordinators at CRC Robotics. I've been participating in the competition. Well, I participated in the competition from 2007 to 2012, and I was a volunteer from 2013 up until 2016, and then a coordinator after that. So all of the information that I'm going to present to you today is really a lot of the experience that I have gained throughout my 14 or so years with CRC. And hopefully this will help you in the competition. I know this year is a little different. Obviously, there is very little snow outside during our competition, which is definitely new to us, but also it is completely virtual. So there is a lot of adapting. I know that a lot of you have had to adapt the way you build and the way you meet. So kudos to all of you for continuing to participate. I think it's going to be a really, really good competition, even if it's virtual. And hopefully a lot of the tips and tricks that I will share with you today are going to be helpful for you. Alors, ça va être en français et en anglais. Je vais faire quelques diapos en anglais, quelques diapos en français. Mais si jamais vous avez des questions, vous pouvez utiliser le chat ou vous pouvez utiliser le raise hand function dans Zoom, puis je vais prendre vos questions après chaque petite partie, puis aussi à la fin de l'atelier. So just very quickly, if you guys have any questions, you can use the chat or you can use the raise hand function. And what I'll do is I'll respond to all of the questions at the end of every little section. And also at the end, I'll pause for just overall questions. It should take about an hour or so to go through everything. So hopefully you can stay on, and the session is being recorded. So you will be able to share this and it'll be posted on YouTube by tomorrow. So without further ado, the agenda. Alors, l'agenda pour aujourd'hui. On va passer à travers quelques tâches à compléter. Alors, on a fait un petit to-do list pour vous. Je pense que ça va vous aider pour la préparation à la compétition. On va passer à travers les attributs d'une bonne présentation. So the attributes of a successful presentation. We're going to go through all of those. There's about 10 tips and tricks that we've put together for you. Et après ça, on va passer à travers les différentes présentations que vous devez faire. Alors, le pitch, la conception de robot et la construction du robot. So we'll go through each of the different presentations and some of the things that you'll need to keep in mind for those specific presentations. Et finalement, on va terminer avec un petit mot de la fin. Alors, la préparation pour la compétition. So this one will be in English because it is part of our to-do list as well. We have basically given you some of our to-do list, and I've put in a couple of things specifically for you guys that you'll need to keep in mind. So the first thing, and the completely new thing that has never been required of the schools before, is to build the playing field. So obviously it's a virtual competition. You will need to build your own playing field. What I suggest you do is build it in advance and obviously test your robot on it to make sure that there are no adjustments to be made. And if you're ever not sure about how to build your playing field, or if something would be fine for evaluation purposes and judging and stuff like that, feel free to reach out to us. I mean, we're always available. You can reach out to us through Manager on the forum, by email, by Facebook, by Instagram, whatever you need, and we'll be here to help you out. If you cannot build a playing field, you do not have the the bandwidth for it, you're really tight, please let us know in advance, like probably by the end of the month, and we'll see what we can do. Obviously, we don't want to put anyone at a disadvantage, but we don't want to give anyone a super big advantage either. But we want to work with you. So if for whatever reason you can't build a playing field, please let us know and we'll work with you to see what we can do. The next thing as well that is never needed to be done by a school is to confirm a place to play the heats and to give your presentations. So this can be a classroom in your school or maybe your gym, or someone's house, someone's garage. I know with COVID there's a lot of restrictions, so please make sure you abide by the rules, but also that you find a place to play the heats. And if you are having trouble, getting into your school or whatnot, again, please let us know. We're here to help and support as much as we can. Obviously, there are limits to what we can and cannot do, but we will try to help as much as we can. So let us know early again if you're having trouble getting into your school or getting some, reserved place or anything like that. Please make sure that wherever you do decide to play the heats, it is big enough and there is access to obviously electrical outlets and stuff like that. It's going to be, you're going to have Zoom on pretty much all day. It will use the battery obviously on your laptop and stuff like that. So you will need to have this plugged in addition to, your batteries and stuff like that. So just make sure that wherever you choose, it is suitable to play your heats, and also that it is clean enough or that you can kind of hide the mess when you're giving your presentations. So again, we will have the judges for the presentations. They obviously know it's virtual. They know that every school has kind of had to make compromises and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, your presentation does count. So just make sure that the area around you at least is clean and viewable, obviously by your judges. The next thing is to identify your speakers and your game players. So who is going to speak for what presentation and who is going to be around the field when the robot is playing the heat. So this is all very important because obviously you need to know who's going to be there and who's going to be able to answer questions and handle kind of all of the Zoom connectivity. That leads me to my next point, which is having a schedule of who is available at what time and on what day and what their role is going to be. So this is super important because it's virtual. There's a lot of things that are being handed off to the team. And so with that, you really need a clear schedule of who's going to be there, who's going to be present, at what time, during what time, and what their role is going to be for that time period. So obviously, you need the speakers there at a certain time whenever your presentation is going to be. You need to have your game players there whenever your heats are, but you also need other people there, people to maintain the Zoom, people to work on the robot, so all of these things need to be taken into consideration. So just make sure that you have a detailed schedule and everybody knows their role as well. So once you make that schedule, make it as a team, make sure everybody actually knows what role they are playing. The next item is to have a list of the key contact people. So this can be anywhere between, the team captain, your mentor, the actual school, right? The administration of your school, the CRC. How do you contact the CRC? This could be someone's parent, right? Or emergency contact who can administer first aid and CPR if ever anything were to happen. All of these things, you should have a list of people and you should have it up in the room that you've reserved to play your heats and give your presentations so that anybody can refer to them at any time. The next item is to reread the rulebook and the evaluation criteria. Obviously, you've had the rulebook for a long time, you've had the evaluation criteria for a long time, but it doesn't hurt to relook at it, at least the sections that you are in charge of, or that your team is doing, so that you can make sure you're all up to date and you've met every criteria and you know every rule of the game as well. The evaluation criteria is what the judges use to evaluate your presentations. So if you're not checking all of those boxes during your presentation, you need to adapt your presentation to that. And that leads me to my next point, which is to prepare for your presentations. So conduct some dry runs, and conduct dry runs with people outside of your circle, outside of your team. You can do them with your parents, you can do them with your friends that are not in robotics, because ultimately the judges are not part of the CRC for the final evaluations, right? These are expert judges. They know about the CRC. We do tell them about the game and about the different obstacles and stuff that you guys had over the course of the last couple months. But ultimately, they weren't active members of the CRC. So conducting dry runs with people who are outside of the CRC is kind of like conducting a presentation with one of the judges. So I strongly suggest you do that, and that you do it several times so that you can make sure that you've met all your evaluation criteria, that you're within the time frame, that you can answer questions from this audience as well. The next item is actually to create an item list. So this is all of the things that you'll need to reach for during the games, right? An extra battery, a drill, a screwdriver, everything that you'll need to reach for during the game. And having that list, you'll be able to check them off whenever you have to move them into a certain room or have them readily available next to your playing field. And organize your toolkits, obviously. If you can, label compartments, label even tools themselves if you need them. If you're not sure what a tool is or someone's not sure, just label it, put a sticker on it, say what it is. That's not, that's not an insult to anybody in any stretch of the imagination. It's really to allow you to just get that very, very quickly. Just gonna mute. Sorry, I just had to mute someone. Okay, and then also think of all the things you might need spares of and obtain them if possible. So it could be different for every school, but you may need spares of something. And if you don't have them, it may be difficult throughout the days of the competition, especially now with the pandemic. The lineups at the stores are quite long, there's restrictions and stuff like that. So you don't want to necessarily get caught off guard without having something. So make that list and maybe go get those spares before the competition. And like we say every year, start your upload process early for the website, the video, and the tutorial. So the deadline is in exactly 1 week. So it's March 29th at 11:59 p.m. So right before midnight. There are things that happen. There is slowness. If you're trying to put something live, it is definitely very, very slow at times. So just start as early as possible. We will be opening up the portal this week. So if you have your stuff ready, there's nothing that stops you from uploading it today, or not today, but when the upload portal is ready and active. So there's nothing that stops you from uploading it on Sunday or Saturday. We will see that you've submitted something, but if you decide to change something on Monday morning, you saw a spelling mistake or whatnot, or you saw a subtitle mistake and you want to change that, you just have to re-upload it. And we will always take the last submission. So you can upload as many times as you want. We'll just take the last submission, but start early so that at least you don't get stuck in a situation where you haven't uploaded anything by the deadline. Of course, there is a process where if you cannot meet the deadline, something happens, to send an email. The email address is in the rulebook. It's actually my email address, so I manage all of the submissions. It is my direct email address for CRC. And so if ever there is an issue or a problem, you can email me and we will figure out something to do. I'm not going to say that we're just going to let you off the hook. There's obviously, different things that we can do depending on your situation. But what we do ask is that you send that email before the deadline. So if you're having trouble uploading something, it's not working, you need help, whatever the case may be, that email needs to come in before midnight. I don't necessarily want that email after midnight saying that there was an issue for the past 2 hours. Just send me an email an hour after you've had the issue and we'll try to figure something out. And obviously, the earlier you let me know there's an issue, first of all, the earlier we can help you. And secondly, the earlier we know to expect potentially a late submission, and you would be professional in doing that, and likely you will be left off the hook, or in some cases have a very minimal penalty for that. And the last thing to do, and we will be communicating with your mentors in the coming, I would say, week or two, is to test your webcam, your internet connection, and your Zoom connectivity. So everything will be put in place within the next 2 weeks. What we're doing right now is we're actually getting a list of the final schools that will be participating. Obviously, some schools have had to drop out. Some schools have not been able to participate. So we're working at getting the final list of schools. And once we have that, we're going to build the schedule. We're going to build all of the Zoom breakout rooms for you guys. And so you'll have all of the information you need. And when you have that, we'll ask that you test your webcam, your internet connection, and the connectivity to those Zoom breakout rooms so that you can be ready for the competition. And like I said, we'll be in contact with your mentor to do that in the coming weeks before the competition. So that is the to-do list. Obviously, there are things that go beyond this. There are things that have been removed because of the fact that it's virtual, right? You don't have to order a truck. You don't have to load a truck. You don't have to unload a truck. You didn't have to build a kiosk per se. You didn't have to get permission slips and stuff like that. So obviously, this is the high level of things that you will need to do. For some schools, it goes beyond this. There's other things that they need to do, but this will really get you ready for the competition. So I'm just going to pause there very quickly. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat and or raise your hand. So I'm just going to pause for a couple seconds here in case anyone has any questions. Okay, so I'll move on to the next section. Again, if you do have questions, you can write them in the chat and I'll just go back to them later. Okay, so attributes of a successful presentation. Alors, on a 10 différents conseils pour vous pour les présentations. Alors, le premier, c'est vraiment de communiquer avec le public. It's definitely hard to be relaxed and be yourself when you're nervous. So the most important thing is to actually connect with your audience. Alors, il faut vraiment avoir une connexion, communiquer avec votre public. Et la meilleure façon de le faire est de laisser transparaître votre passion pour le sujet. Fait que vous êtes dans la robotique parce que vous êtes passionné par la robotique. obviously, il faut vraiment faire transparaître cette passion à l'audience. Soyez enthousiaste, soyez honnête, puis vous verrez que le public répondra très positivement. Concentrez-vous sur le public. Fait que votre présentation doit vraiment s'articuler autour de ce que votre public va retirer de la présentation. Fait que vous avez des différentes audiences. Dans les préliminaires des présentations, c'est vraiment les bénévoles de la CRC. Fait que vous parlez à des bénévoles de la CRC, les gens qui ont déjà participé à la compétition, qui font partie de l'équipe de bénévoles. Alors, c'est vraiment une différente audience. Dans les finales, c'est des experts. D'habitude, c'est des gens qui reviennent année après année. Alors, c'est vraiment des gens qui comprennent c'est quoi la CRC. Par contre, c'est quand même des experts. Ce ne sont pas des bénévoles. Ils n'étaient pas avec nous pendant toute la saison. Ils ne savent pas toutes les décisions qu'on a prises, etc. Fait que c'est vraiment d'adapter votre présentation à votre public. Et aussi, il faut faire en sorte qu'il soit facile pour votre public de comprendre et de répondre. Encore une fois, pour les experts, d'habitude, tu fais un peu de background, tu inclus un peu de background sur qu'est-ce que vous avez fait parce que ce n'est pas des gens de la CRC. Conseil numéro 3, c'est vraiment genre un keep it simple, KISS methodology. Quand vous planifiez votre présentation, il faut toujours garder en tête la question. Puis la question, c'est quel est le message clé que mon public doit retenir. Donc, d'habitude, les experts et les bénévoles de la CRC vont entendre plein de présentations. Puis il faut vraiment que ils soient capables de retenir un message clé de votre présentation pour que quand ils sont en train de faire le ranking pour un tel composant, ben, ils sont capables de se rappeler d'un message clé ou d'un point clé que vous avez mentionné lors de votre présentation. Puis d'habitude, c'est ces messages clés qui vont faire la différence dans le ranking aussi. You need to be able to communicate the key message very briefly. Again, you only have 5 minutes and you will be cut off at 5 minutes after your presentation. So the most important thing is to keep your core message focused and brief. And if there are questions afterwards, obviously you have a 5-minute question period after. So just make sure that what you need to say is included in that 5 minutes, and anything additional could probably be incorporated into a question, right? It's not something that needs to absolutely be said, but sometimes a judge will ask a question similar to what you wanted to say, and you can just include that in your response. And of course, if what you're planning to say doesn't contribute to that core message, then just don't say it. It's not going to add any value, so don't mention it. Tip number 4 is to smile and make eye contact. So it sounds super easy, but actually a lot of presenters don't do it, and I'm one of them. You can see it right now, and I'll give you a tip as to how to present online. I've done a lot of virtual presentations over the past year, not for CRC, but for other things as well. And it's funny how sometimes you don't catch that you're not making eye contact when you think you are. So smile and make eye contact. By doing so, you're building rapport. You're building a connection with that audience. Now, the thing for virtual presentations, and everyone is subject to this, your eye contact is not your screen, it's actually your webcam. So if you're looking at me right now, I am looking into my webcam and you see that I am speaking to you, but now I'm going to look at my screen and you see that my eyes are not necessarily connecting to yours. So it's something that a lot of people do, and it's hard to shy away from that. So if you can, practice just talking to your webcam, practice not looking down, not looking at your screen. A lot of times when you're not sharing something, when you're sharing something, it's different because you have to refer to what you have on the screen. But when you're not sharing and you're looking at people, you tend to look at the people and not your webcam. So what the people see is you talking to your screen and not them. So just make sure you practice. Again, it's really hard because you tend to look at people and not a little dot on your laptop. But try your best, and I'm sure it will make a difference if you do make eye contact with them. Le conseil numéro 5, c'est vraiment de commencer du bon pas, de commencer bien. Le début de votre présentation est absolument crucial. C'est vraiment le moment où vous allez attirer l'attention de votre public et le retenir. Tu as vraiment juste, parce que tu as une présentation de juste 5 minutes, tu as vraiment juste quelques secondes de grâce pour vraiment les divertir avant qu'ils commencent à se désintéresser. Et si vous êtes ennuyeux, ben, ça va encore plus les désintéresser à votre présentation. Alors, commencez vraiment par les divertir. Il y a différentes façons de le faire. Tu peux faire un petit blague. Tu peux juste vraiment commencer vraiment du bon pas avec un petit sourire. Des trucs de même, des petits trucs de même va faire vraiment toute la différence. Le conseil numéro 6, c'est de raconter des histoires. Alors, comme être humain, on est programmé pour répondre aux histoires. D'habitude, quand tu racontes une histoire à quelqu'un, c'est vraiment, tu vas aller attirer leur attention plus que si vous allez juste raconter des faits. Alors, vraiment, les histoires nous aident à être attentifs et aussi à se souvenir de certaines choses. Des fois, quand vous racontez une histoire, les juges vont se rappeler de cette histoire ou même d'une certaine partie de l'histoire. Et ça va faire aussi la différence quand ils vont retourner pour faire le ranking de tout le monde, ben, ils vont se rappeler de votre histoire, puis ça va jouer un effet positif dans votre ranking. Alors, quand vous êtes en train de préparer la présentation, ben, pensez à l'histoire que vous essayez à raconter et créez vraiment votre présentation pour la raconter. Et encore une fois, tu as vraiment juste 5 minutes. Il faut vraiment que vous pratiquiez, puis que l'histoire peut rentrer dans les 5 minutes que vous avez. Tip number 7 is to use your voice effectively. So obviously a very monotone presentation is super boring. You're going to lose the interest of your audience, of your judges. So vary the speed of your talk. Obviously emphasize on changes in pitch and tone. All of these will help make your presentation a lot more interesting, and you're going to grab the audience's attention very quickly. Tip number 8 is body language. And some people don't realize that body language still comes through online and virtually. So about 3/4 of communication is nonverbal, both in person and virtually. So again, that means that, in addition to your tone of voice, your body language is also crucial to getting the message across. So when you're presenting, especially virtually, obviously you're going to be on camera, you're going to have this webcam, but most of the time they will see your upper body. They may see your full body, depending on how you want to kind of adjust and communicate, right? So we're not going to say you have to be standing up and we need to see your whole body. But again, most of the time you're presenting a robot for 2 of your 3 presentations. So sometimes you will want to be standing up and you will want to have a full picture in the video. So just make sure that while you are presenting, you don't have your arms crossed, you don't have your hands behind your back, you're not pacing. Sometimes when you're the only one presenting, it's less difficult to do that. So it's definitely easier because you're just continuously talking. But if you have 2 or 3 people actually presenting at the same time, sometimes when you're not talking and one of your colleagues is talking, you tend to, cross your arms, look elsewhere, sometimes have your hands, behind your back, or you just start kind of moving from side to side and swaying. So just make sure you don't do that while others are talking, because what happens is the attention is now diverted to you and not to the person talking. So they're missing everything that the person is saying right now. And again, make your gestures open, confident, make sure to show that you know what you're talking about. Le conseil numéro 9, comme j'ai dit, c'est vraiment de vous pratiquer. Alors, faut vous familiariser avec votre présentation pour pouvoir communiquer l'essentiel de votre message. Si vous avez des notes, des fois, c'est vraiment facile de vous perdre dans les notes. Fait que je vous conseille de ne pas avoir des notes ou juste d'avoir des petits bullet points de termes si c'est des trucs que vous oubliez facilement ou quoi que ce soit. Mais de ne pas avoir votre script au complet devant vous, c'est vraiment, vraiment facile de vous perdre. Puis d'habitude, tu te rends à un moment où tu vas dire, ah, attends une minute, puis là, ça déraille la conversation, ça fait en sorte que la présentation va s'arrêter le temps que vous vous retrouvez, puis après ça, ça va recommencer. Encore une fois, répétez la présentation plusieurs fois devant différentes personnes pour que vous soyez à l'aise avec ce que vous allez dire. And the last tip, so tip number 10 is to relax, breathe, and enjoy. This is not a test. This is not an exam. And sometimes if you find it difficult to present, it can be definitely very hard to stay calm and be relaxed about doing it. So concentrate on your breathing. Slow it down as much as possible. Usually when we're nervous, we tend to talk even faster. So just make sure you breathe and your words will come even slower and you'll be able to present at a normal pace. And obviously, if you bring yourself to relax, you obviously present better. So you start to enjoy yourself because you're actually enjoying what you're saying, you're passionate about it, you want everybody to know about it. So your audience ends up responding to that, engaging with you, potentially laughing and just enjoying their time with you. And that's exactly what you want. So that is it for the tips and tricks. Again, I'm going to pause for a couple seconds just to see if anybody has any questions. You can write them in the chat or you can raise your hand. Yes, Victor. You can unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
I had a question before, except I raised my hand too late. For the field, fast.
Yep.
How precise does it need to be? Like if it's like a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch off, is that too much?
So we're actually working on the variances for the field. So we're working on kind of simulations as to what that would mean. I don't have an answer for you right away, but I'll have an answer for you within the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
It's going to be posted on like Manager or something?
Yeah, we're going to post everything on Manager, and obviously it's also going to be sent to your mentor, whoever that may be.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Any other questions? D'autres questions? Okay, I will move on to the next section. And again, if you have any questions, I'll take them after each section. Even if it's for a prior section, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so we'll move on to the presentations. So this is going to be the 3 presentations that you're going to do. So it's the CRC pitch, robot design, and robot construction. We'll start with the CRC pitch. So obviously the CRC pitch is what is replacing the kiosk. So it's still the whole creative and interactive portion of the CRC robotics competition. So this is your time to kind of be creative, think out of the box about how things are presented, I strongly suggest that you watch TED Talks, but the TED Talks that are very engaging, because there's some that are very factual and some that are people actually telling their story. And that's what's very interesting. I do suggest you look at those. Obviously, they're on a larger scale and they're all longer. Some of them are, 15, 20 minutes. You only have 5 minutes, but you can take a lot of what they're saying and how they're saying it for the CRC pitch. As with all presentations, you have to start with your school name. Alors, présentez-vous, présentez votre école aussi. Explain your theme and how and why you chose it. So the theme is not mandatory, but a lot of schools have their theme. So if you do have one, explain what it is, because that's when the judges will actually understand why you did certain things a certain way. Showcase your work. So show the judges basically how you overcame certain COVID-19 obstacles, emphasize on the interesting details. I know from talking to a lot of your mentors that you guys really have different obstacles depending on what school you're at, and depending on what grade you're at as well. Obviously in CEGEP you have different obstacles than in high school, and also within high school, private versus public, English versus French is super different. So the obstacles will likely be different. Some may be the same, but some may be different. So emphasize on those interesting details that you think were very different from other schools. So obviously we all know we had to work on this remotely, but the how is what's going to put you apart or set you apart from the others. And then explain what you did to make it to the competition, right? So we've all had to make sacrifices, we've all had to adapt, and how you did that will serve a purpose in this communication and in this presentation. So when it comes to robot design, the idea is to be professional and concise. Again, the people that you will be presenting to. So for the CRC pitch, the people who you'll be presenting to is CRC volunteers. It's a set of unbiased CRC volunteers who will be judging that. But for the robot design and robot construction, these are experts in their field. These are professionals who are either engineers or work in some kind of robotics-based company. So the idea is to be professional and concise. Encore une fois, présentez-vous, présentez le nom de votre école. And I think the difference, a lot of people mix robot design and robot construction and do the same presentation for both. It's not the same presentation at all. In robot design, you're explaining what your robot does and how it is adapted to play the game. What is the strategy? What is your game strategy? How did you approach the game, and why you chose the final design? So again, prototypes is super important. If you have prototypes, show them on the video, have them all lined up in front of you, whatever the case may be. Showing prototypes shows how your design has evolved. So showing that during your presentation is super interesting for the judges. And again, emphasize on the unique solution. So you're out of the box thinking, how did you approach the game? What was your strategy? This year's game is to build different structures, right? So what is your strategy? Are you just picking out of a hat every heat to find the structure that you're going to build? Or are you kind of going hardest to easiest throughout the competition? Are you going from easiest to hardest? Are you choosing based on what will give you the most amount of points if you succeed? What is that unique solution? And also, when do you drop the ball through the hoop, right? When do you drop the ball through that hoop? Are you dropping it in every game? Are you only dropping it if you're able to complete the structure within a certain amount of time? All of these are strategies, and that's what you need to mention and talk about in your robot design, because that is how you've designed your robot to play the game. Defend your decisions. Again, these are professionals, they're experts. They will ask the why. Why did you do it this way? Know how to respond and answer the questions confidently. So obviously they're not asking because they want to put you down. They're not asking because they think it's a bad idea. They're asking you genuinely to explain the why, to find out if you actually know why you've done it a certain way, or if you've done it that way because someone else told you to do it that way, or because you read online that that's the best way to build structures or something like that. So those are all um, good answers, but they need to be backed up with what you've done to address that strategy and the game this year. On the flip side, the robot construction is actually what the robot does, how it moves, how it was built. But again, you need to be professional and concise. So again, they're experts in their field. These are engineers, they work in robotics, they're experts in everything that moves. So again, present your name, your school name, explain what your robot does, and how it was built logically with efficiency in mind. So again, they're automated robots. So think about that when you're thinking of your presentation and why it was built a certain way based on the fact that it's automated. Explain the structure, the movement of the robot, focusing on what your robot can do that others may not have thought of. So what sets your robot apart from the others? Emphasize on the ease to maintain the robot. That's one of the criteria, is how easy is it to fix the robot if something breaks. Justify, how many motors, your choice of material, where you've put your motors, etc. And again, defend your decisions and answer the questions confidently. Again, for robot construction, you will get the why. Why did you use a certain material? Why did you put that there? Why did you? So all of these, just make sure that you have the answer to the whys. So that is pretty much the end of the entire workshop. Again, we've gone through all of the 3 components that will be presentations live. We've gone through your to-do list, and we've gone through the 10 tips and tricks for a presentation. So again, I know we had kind of a dry period where there wasn't much being posted. It was because we were actually working with the government and with some of the schools, our pedagogical committee, our board of directors, on exactly how this competition is going to work. We've had a lot of lockdowns that we've had to, adjust and figure out if this competition is going to be held, and if so, how. So now that we are about less than a month till the competition, we will be posting more frequently. There is a lot of stuff that will come in the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks in terms of how to get you equipped for the competition. But if ever there's anything, again, you have the manager forum. We're pretty responsive fairly quickly. And if not, you can reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook or even by email, and we'll be posting on Facebook and Instagram as well. So I guess I will pause for questions, again, either through the chat or through raise hand function. Whatever the case may be, feel free to ask your questions. Okay, so I don't see anybody raising their hand, and I can't see if anyone's typing in the chat. But if you are typing in the chat, maybe just raise your hand so that I know that a question is coming. Okay, so I don't see anything. Again, if there's anything, we are here to help. We know it's one of those weird years. It's one of those years where everything needs to be addressed differently. So we're here to help. Luca, I think you have a question.
Yeah, sorry. So there's something that I forgot to note down. You said that body language when someone else is presenting, how it should be. Sorry, could you just repeat? Like, should I know we shouldn't keep our arms crossed, but like make eye contact with the judges and stuff like that. Is that it?
Yeah, so if you're presenting like in a group, if you're two or three presenting, most of the time what happens is the person who's not talking at that particular point is kind of looking like elsewhere, and
Mhm.
sometimes they cross their arms or like they put their arms in the back of their like on their back or in their pockets, or they start just like swaying and pacing. So just don't do that.
Okay.
Try to look at the screen or at least at the other person talking. That's something good too. Like if you look at the other person, you're making eye contact with that person as well. And so the judges will not look at you because you're not really looking at them and you're not doing anything to distract them. You're just looking at the other person. So that's something that you can do. Otherwise, just kind of look straight at your camera and wait for your turn. But that's pretty much what you want to do when you're not talking. And when you are talking, again, don't start pacing and crossing your arms and like standing, like posing almost, I want to call it.
Yeah.
Just talk regularly and you'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, I don't know if there's any other questions. Okay. So I will end it there. Again, we are here to support. We are here to help. I don't know how many times I can say it, but we are definitely here and we're very responsive. We have a whole team pretty much ready to help in any way they can. Obviously, there are things that are outside of our control, but we will work with you as much as we can to make sure that that is not a hindrance to you and that you're still able to present and be present at the competition. So apart from that, I guess we will end here. So good luck to all of you. There's about 4 weeks left to the competition, or less than 4 weeks, but about 3.5 weeks left to the competition. So good luck, and we will see everyone and each other virtually at that point. Have a good night, everyone.